was another one up here I wanted to. Oh, here's a good. This is another one. A lot of people have asked this question. The Snooper, welcome, first of all. And again, why would anyone leave two witnesses, in your opinion?
Well.
And you can answer that at your discretion as to how much of it you can talk about, okay?
I think at this point, I feel a little bit more inclined to answer this question, which I really probably wouldn't have a few months ago. But I feel like law enforcement and authorities, I'm concerned that they're going to end it here with Koberger, and then it's not going to go any further because they're involved. Because they knew it was, because Dylan, I believe that they're involved.
That's about as blatant as you can get. About as blatant as you can get. That's about as blatant as you can get.
Timeline is so important here, and everybody, let's start with 4 a.m. to 4:25 a.m. That's when law enforcement believes the murders occurred. 4 a.m. to 4:25 a.m. All right. First timeline, at 4:04, there was a white Elantra that was driving in front of the house. At 4:12, there was a DoorDash delivery. Xana Kernodle had ordered some food. She answered the door. She got her food. She went into her bedroom. It's believed she was very much awake, eating her food. At 4:17, there was a security camera about 50 feet away from the house that they all lived in. And that security camera had audio. Then at 4:22 to 4:24, there were texts back and forth with the surviving roommates that were alive. They were in their separate bedrooms on the first floor. And then finally, at 10:45 a.m., they text Kaylee and Maddie Mogan. And finally, 7 hours later, at 11:58, almost noon, they call 911, and they say that they have an unconscious person.
That was the 911 call. Police arrive, find not an unconscious person, but a dead person and 3 others, all apparently and obviously murdered. Takes us to the next layer of the mystery. Police believe the surviving roommates likely slept through the murders.
Here's what else ISB told ABC News late this afternoon. They confirmed this is a large investigation, a large crime scene inside multiple levels of this home. ISP would not say if they think it's one killer or more than one. It's one killer or more than one.
I have an expert who said it would take 3 years for him, an expert who knows how to do this, to go through every single piece of that. Now, he's been through a lot because we've had a little bit over 2 years to work on that. Not a full 2 years because we haven't had that discovery for the full 2 years. But there's quite a bit that I haven't looked at. I don't have an expert giving me even a report. We're not completed with that. I think I've read most of the police reports in this case, but I haven't read the thousands and thousands and thousands of tips that came in on this case. Don't think they're all not relevant, though. Recently, we came across a tip just in trying to work through some of these issues. We came across a tip that would appear to be an alternate suspect, and we're trying to work through that as rapidly as we can. It was quite a surprise to come up with that.
Are you not entertained?
Sunday marks 1 week since 4 Idaho college students were murdered.
Is this not why you were here?
Loved ones devastated and police baffled.
Hello everyone. This is the Wawaway timeline. And it starts off right here at Southeast Nevada Street at 2:53 a.m. The car starts by going to Wawaway Park. Here's Southeast Nevada, Wawaway Park, and as you can see, it's 27 minutes. So he leaves at 2:53, and you add 27 minutes, that's 3:20 a.m. he gets here. And I figure if he's gonna leave his cell phone, he gets out of the car, walks for about a minute, hides it, comes back to the car. So now it's 3:22 a.m. Now he's gonna go to the King Road house. Okay, here's Wawaway Park, King Road house. And as you can see, it's 40 minutes. So he got at Wawaway Park at 3:20, plus 2 minutes for walking, hiding the phone, that's 3:22, plus 40 minutes here to get to King Roadhouse. That puts it at 4:02 a.m. And as you can see here, he's coming in to park at 4:05:42. Okay, so that leaves the Indian Hills Drive at 3:26 a.m. That can't be the car because he was at Wellway Park at 3:20. And that also leaves the A&W gas station between Indian Hills Drive and the King Roadhouse at 3:28 a.m. Can't be him. And then on the 1112 Queen Roadhouse next door to the King Roadhouse at 3:29 a.m. It can't be him. And then the other car circling the apartment at 3:39 a.m. and again at 3:57 a.m.
So could it have really been Kohlberger who committed this crime? Corporal Brent Payne, a relatively inexperienced officer, was assigned as the lead investigator in what's arguably the most high-profile case in the country. Why would law enforcement make that decision, especially knowing how many would jump at the chance to be a part of such a major investigation? That kind of move often signals a cover-up. Choosing someone with rookie status means they're more likely to follow orders without question. But the real question is, who was given those orders? Who's pulling the strings behind Corporal Payne, telling him what to include in his reports? If he was truly in charge, why would he write things he didn't directly observe or understand?
When was the first time you saw AT&T's timing advance?
I do not recall when I first saw it.
Where is it?
To the best of my knowledge, all of that information from those returns has been provided to the prosecutor's office.
If I tell you I don't have a timing advance report or any from the other phone companies, where do I look for them?
I would direct you back to the prosecutor's office. Everything that Moscow PD received, in that realm, we have turned over to my knowledge.
But you know you've seen this report, is that right?
I do not recall if I've seen the timing advance reports. I'd have to see what it even looked like to know if I'd seen it.
Do you know what it is?
Not particularly. I'm no expert.
Okay. You wrote the search warrant though, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, how did you get the language for that if you don't know what this is?
So there's no secret that I rely heavily on people who are very highly educated in these topic areas to write this search warrant. So that language was likely conveyed to me through people who know much more than myself about cell phone data.
Who are those people?
Like I said, FBI agent Balance and Detective Mowry were probably my two main points of contact for helping me with that language.
A lead detective who isn't fully aware of what's in his own probable cause affidavit. That's a major red flag. If the probable cause affidavit doesn't credibly link Kohlberger to the crime, then his arrest isn't justified. You got a tip about a potential alternate suspect. Bethany potentially withholding exculpatory evidence. No DNA link. No clear motive. All signs point to someone else being responsible. Yet, while the public keeps defending the surviving roommates, their shifting stories are only casting more doubt and making them look worse.
Besides that, how come every single time we get something new, it makes one of the roommates or both of the roommates look even more suspicious of something?
Because they know it was because Dylan, I believe that they're involved.
Since the case moved to Boise with a different judge, we've seen a blizzard of unsealed, unredacted court filings and a regular supply of details and disclosures, even some bombshells. And tonight, two absolutely stunning revelations about the surviving housemates texting and talking in the wee hours of November 13th, 2022. We knew that Dylan Mortensen, a surviving roommate, had texted an Uber driver just after 2 o'clock in the morning. That's about 2 hours before the murders happened. But now we know that she and 3 of her roommates, Bethany, Kaylee, and Maddie, all of whom had just arrived home from a night out, had actually contemplated going out again. The court document reads, and I quote, "At approximately 2 a.m., they met up in Kaylee's bedroom and talked for a while before going to bed. The 5th roommate, Xana Kernodle, who was out with her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, was not home yet. The roommates debated going out to the food truck for late-night snack, prompting Dylan to send a text at 2:10 a.m. to an Uber driver she knew to see if he was driving. Ultimately, however, the girls decided to just go to bed." And that brings me to the second revelation. We knew about Dylan and Bethany's frantic text messaging between 4:22 a.m. and 4:26 a.m. when Dylan tells Bethany that nobody will answer their phones and that she's afraid because she saw someone in a ski mask. And we knew that Dylan then ran down to Bethany's room on the ground floor of the 3-level house. But the court documents now reveal a brand new fact that we never knew. And it is, honestly, it is something horrifying. Again, quoting Dylan. Dylan again tried calling Kaylee and Xana, but neither responded. Dylan then exited her room and began running towards Bethany's bedroom. On her way, she noticed Xana lying on the floor of her bedroom with her head towards the wall and her feet towards the door. Dylan thought Xana was drunk. Once Dylan arrived downstairs at Bethany's room, they locked the door and both made additional unanswered calls to the other roommates. Hours passed, and at 11:50 a.m. the next morning, 6 minutes before the 911 call that you have heard on this program, Dylan called her friends Emily Allant and Hunter Johnson because she was too afraid to go upstairs by herself. And the court filing reads, Emily and Hunter met Dylan and Bethany at the bottom floor of the house. Together, Dylan, Bethany, and Hunter started to walk up the stairs to the second floor. When they reached the second floor, Hunter went to the kitchen to grab a kitchen knife. Now, this next part is from Dylan's grand jury testimony. When Hunter came back out, Dylan said, quote, "She saw Xana again for a split second," and this is Dylan talking, "and just started bawling because she thought she had just like, I don't even know. I thought maybe she was still just drunk and all asleep on the floor. Bethany also saw Xana lying on the floor."
Dylan made a crucial mistake in her testimony. How could the roommates have debated about going to the food truck if Maddie and Kaylee had already brought food back from there? She also claimed that she was afraid when she saw Xana lying on the floor, thinking she was just drunk. But if she really believed Xana was simply passed out, why didn't she call 911 right away? And why did Dylan ask Hunter to grab a knife if she truly thought Xana was just unconscious? Even in the 911 call, there was no mention of blood, only that someone was unconscious.
One of the roommates is passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up.
This suggests that Dylan saw Xana lying on the floor and still decided to stay in her room, calmly uploading and deleting photos and videos from her phone, messaging friends on social media, and making calls to her dad. One red flag that I noticed is that during the 911 call, Dylan immediately began trying to explain herself, almost like she was just trying to shape the narrative. That's suspicious already. It wasn't until the dispatcher interrupted her and redirected the focus to the unconscious person that she started following instructions.
11:55 a.m. 42 seconds, November 13, 2022.
911 location of your emergency.
Hi, something is happening. Something happened in our house. We don't know what.
What is the address of the emergency?
1122.
What is the rest of the address?
Oh, Kings Road.
Okay. And is that a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Can you repeat the address to make sure that I have it right?
I'll talk to you guys. We live at the White, so we're next to them.
I need someone to repeat the address for verification.
The address, 1122 King Road.
And tell me exactly what's going on.
One of the roommates has passed out, and she was drunk last night, and she's not waking up.
Okay.
Oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. Hi, this is
And are you with the patient? Okay, I need someone to keep the phone, stop passing it around.
Can I just tell you what happened pretty much?
What is going on currently? Is someone passed out right now?
I don't really know, but pretty much at 4 a.m.
Okay, I need to know what's going on right now if someone is passed out. Can you find that out?
Yeah, I'll come. Come on, Bethany, you gotta go check.
Interestingly, a YouTuber named Sloan Bella predicted last year that the father of one of the roommates was providing large amounts of money to the household. That now seems plausible. There's definitely something on that phone.
Anyway, I also get a connection, and I have no idea who this is, but to a father figure connected to the house. So there's somebody writing checks with a lot of money. I don't know whose father it is and why I'm using the word father figure to the house. I write checks. I pay for housing. I pay for this. I pay for that. I'm also involved peripherally because of how I make my money. How do I make my money? Don't know who that is, but I'm also getting that.
So information between Dylan and her father needs a very specifically trained digital forensic examiner that has also worked with the military. And this is extremely interesting right here. Creation, modification, and deletion of multimedia files such as images and videos. Oh boy. See, the problem I have is that regardless of the situation, when it comes to them not being able to put Brian Kohberger at the location, touch DNA being easily explained away, and how there's no connection between him and the victims, no connection between him and 1122 King Road, they cannot find any evidence of him stalking him or anything else.
Anyway, I also get a connection, and I have no idea who this is, but to a father figure connected to the house.
The next question is from Sophie, and it says, Kim, what do you think? There was a cleaning? And I think she means like in the house.
Why do I think so? What I first learned was when I learned about this, and it was prior to them. This was when we got the alert from the school, and I called my daughter. What I learned was that 4 people were stabbed to death. That the roommates were home, and they locked themselves in the basement downstairs. They were awake and aware, and heard everything. And my question then was, why didn't they call 911? She goes, well, I don't know. And well, what was the noise? Well, it's a party house. And I'm like, so what does that mean? And well, like drugs. And I said, so then I first asked, have you been there? She goes, well, no, I haven't been there. But I said, how do you know? She goes, everybody knows. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of an answer kids will give you. Everybody knows, right? You know, they like, it's like everybody else's mom is letting them. It's just kind of how they explain things. So you have to talk kid talk, I guess. But so then I asked, I couldn't get past the 911, not calling 911. I mean, honestly, it was like Groundhog's Day, like every 5 minutes. Why didn't they call? Like, I still can't wrap my head. And she goes, I don't know, Mom. I think they were cleaning up or whatever. And I'm like, cleaning up what? And she says, I don't know, maybe drugs. I don't know. But as time's gone on and things have come out, and there's the lack of evidence in anywhere but the bedrooms. There's some in the kitchen, I think, and there is that likely cleaning meant they were cleaning the house, cleaning up evidence, cleaning up getting things thrown away, picking. The amount of blood that must have been there throughout the house must have been huge.
And understand, folks, that that house took 9 days to process the entire crime scene. 9 days. Okay.
Right.
So
Right.
that'll tell you right
Right.
there yourself.
And they went in back in at several times. So this house, and being a real estate broker and doing a lot of construction sales, and also knowing that Greek Road, they have these little secret panels behind walls and things. That there is crawls throughout that house that are just naturally there from additions over time and from the geotech of the landscape.
A known party house where illegal substances were often passed around had evidence related to the case. Yet, it was cleaned up before police even arrived. That might explain why the University of Idaho was so quick to tear down the home before the trial even began.
Look at this house every day. We can see it from campus. You can see it within the densely populated student area where the house is located. It's just that constant reminder of what happened.
The most high-profile, unaliving scene in recent American history, a place that should be preserved, studied, reviewed, probably a couple of times. It was turned to dust. The house was demolished on December 28th of 2023. Brian Kohberger hadn't even had a trial date set. So let that sink in. They skipped the entire standard public comment and appeals window, which would normally apply to any demolition of historical or criminally significant structures. They didn't just destroy the evidence, guys. They erased the entire crime scene from the timeline. I've said this since the day they tore it down. I would bet that that jury would have been bussed out to go see the crime scene. They fast-tracked it because they're either hiding bad police work or they're burying something that would be nuclear to this case.
But I'll also think of Mamta Kendall, a student from Nepal.
To me, that points to serious police corruption and a clear effort to hide evidence. Also, being connected to a sorority adds a deeper layer, one that feels more ritualistic, secretive, and even sacrificial in nature. As the trial draws near, more evidence continues to surface. We must stay grounded and stand firm against the lies and deception of the enemy. There is still more to this case that has yet to be revealed.